Hi, it's Glenn Depke from Depke Wellness here, and welcome to your next step in what's going on with your hormonal system. At the beginning of this, we discussed how the problem really isn't tied directly into your adrenals. We also got into really what this is, which is how it's the reactionary state between your brain, your hypothalamus, your pituitary, and your adrenals. It's how they all interact together, which is really the key for you. And then last week, we got into the impact that this has on your body to help you understand the depth at which, when you have hormonal imbalance, that this is affecting you in a very holistic level and really typically tied into any symptom or challenge you could be suffering with today. And so, what I wanted to get into this week is what are the triggers for this? Because I want you to understand that when you have this dysfunction with your stress hormone system, it's not your stress hormone system that's wrong. It's whatever causes this issue. So we're looking at different levels of stress that can actually trigger this. Now, of course, most people can resonate with, and perhaps you can right now, that it could be mental and emotional stress. If we think of everything that we've gone through as a culture and as a world in 2020, there's a significant amount of people, perhaps yourself as well, that have had high amounts of stress on a consistent basis. And that mental and emotional stress, whether it be acute stress that we're dealing with, or chronic stress, or even the suppression of an emotional response tied into traumas in your past, all of this triggers this stress hormone response that we're talking about. And it really mimics that fight or flight. Like the body thinks that it's in this life or death situation and you have to save your life, which again changes all these other dynamics in your body as well. It's affecting blood sugar and insulin and triggering all of these different chemical responses in your body. And it's not just mental and emotional stress. This is where most people just, you might not have this awareness because most people think of stress as only mental and emotional. But there's also a very strong tie into your physical stressors. Now, these could include inflammation in your body, and inflammation, this is one of the big ones because it ties into so many other aspects as well. Because you can be inflamed because of infection in your body, which is typically tied into infections in your gut, but really you can have infections almost anywhere in your body. It's also potentially tied into eating foods that you're sensitive to. If you have a gluten sensitivity or a gluten cross-reactive sensitivity, or really any type of sensitivity to any food that you eat on any consistent basis, this actually creates that inflammatory response, which is also another trigger for your stress hormone system. And one little note I want to make on this that's very important for you is most people don't realize that 86% of the people who have food sensitivities are actually asymptomatic. So it's not like you eat the food and you feel terribly right afterwards, but it's still driving this low-level inflammatory response, which is having a negative impact on what's going on with your stress hormone system. Now, outside of this, other things that can lead to inflammation in your body. This could include toxicity. This could be environmental toxicity, heavy metal toxicity, chemical toxicity, all of which will actually have this response on your stress hormone system. And on top of this, other things that I wish weren't as common, but they really are, is just even what we're doing dietarily, even outside of food sensitivity. The high percentage of people that are eating what we would call the SAD diet, which is an acronym for the Standard American Diet, which is high in processed foods, sugars, alcohol, and caffeine on a regular basis, all of which could be driving, again, that inflammatory response and that stress hormone response. And then lastly, the other common trigger is really what's tied into inflammation and also the stress hormone response with injury. Whether this be an acute injury or really the bigger challenge, though, is the chronic injury. An acute injury is usually dealt with relatively quickly with a healing response and an inflammatory response and just that acute response in the hormone system. And it's when that injury becomes chronic that it becomes this long-term issue in triggering your stress hormone response. So I want you to really look within yourself and think, well, what triggers do I have right now to my stress hormone system? And to help you understand this a little bit deeper, at the end of the text below, I'm also going to provide you a link for a stress profile assessment that will give you an understanding of where you might sit right now in regard to your stress hormone system and how this is impacting your body directly. And next week, I look forward to sharing with you some simple steps that you can take to overcome your stress hormone response to find your natural body support for the system to really live into the health and the life that you desire today. Have a great week, everybody. I'll talk to you soon.